To the breaking news overnight, the social media app TikTok going dark as a U.S. ban goes into effect.
The TikTok ban is so much darker than you think.
Goodbye, TikTok.
TikTok, I love you. This app kind of saved my life.
To great fanfare and many tears, Chinese-owned TikTok was this month banned in the States, the victim of national security fears.
To the U.S. government, I'm never forgiving you for this.
I'm very upset, sad, angry, many emotions, and it's going to affect me tremendously. I mean, this is my main platform is TikTok.
So when people say that this was just a silly little app for silly little dancing videos, we all know that was not true.
Turns out the most powerful man in America is on their side.
And as of today, TikTok is back.
It was gone just 12 hours.
So I like TikTok. I like it.
Kia ora, I'm Amanda Gillies, and on the detail today, TikTok and the decision to ban and then not to ban. Why did the states decide to turn the switch off, then back on? What are the political ramifications, and what could it mean for New Zealand?
Look, it's not a platform I'm particularly fond of.
That's Paul Spain, Chief Executive and futurist for Gorilla Technology. He's not on TikTok, but more than 1 billion people worldwide are. 170 million of them are in America. It's estimated adult users there spend an average of 54 minutes a day on the app. Since its global arrival in 2017, TikTok has launched unlikely careers, boosted small and struggling businesses, and shaped pop culture trends. If banned, TikTok estimates 7 million small American businesses that use it could lose nearly $2 billion in revenue.
It's my sole income. It's literally my sole income. So it's essentially getting fired from your career. So yeah, it's detrimental to me.
I've put a lot of years and effort into this, which is, kind of a bummer that you spend this much time on something and then it's just taken away from you. But primarily it's the effect on my business as a small business.
So, understandably, many nervous eyes are watching this developing TikTok saga closely, including Paul Spain, who has the latest lowdown.
Well, after seeing TikTok banned for sort of 12 to 14 hours, TikTok is back, and Trump has signed something saying that they're off the hook for, I think it's 75 days. And so we're going to sort of wait and see whether a deal is done in the background. Trump himself has saying what's in referring to what's changed since when he first mooted a ban when he was president last time around. He's saying he has used the application.
And we went on TikTok, and Republicans have never won the young vote, the youth vote. They win a lot of votes, but they never won the youth vote. We won the youth vote by 36 points. So I like TikTok. I like it.
And there is suggestion maybe of some sort of a deal whereby US take maybe a 50% ownership in TikTok, or at least in the American end of it.
Just quickly, your reaction was obviously banned, but then when Trump brought it back, what did you think?
Look, not too much of a surprise here. There have been so many goes at banning TikTok in varying ways, and of course, some of those things have been successful. It's banned, in New Zealand, I think, within some portions of government.
New Zealand's government has become the latest to ban TikTok on devices with access to its parliamentary network due to security concerns. And this is because of fears that the Chinese-owned app passes information about users to the Chinese government, something that owners ByteDance deny.
It's been, similar things in the US and other countries. India have banned it. So, yeah, the fact that this idea of banning TikTok has been bouncing around for years, it wasn't something I was clear was going to go ahead, even after the Supreme Court said they're upholding the ban. And I guess we just got a very small, or the Americans got a very small taste of that for just a few hours.
Talk us through, why is it or why was it banned? What's the problem? What is the national security fears or concerns that's led to this?
Well, I think you have to look a little bit to the way that China operates as a company under the Chinese Communist Party, and as an authoritarian regime, they have a lot of control. And we hear a lot of news. It's often hard to verify, but stories around cyber attacks, data being stolen, and so on, that are often referred as state-sponsored attacks from China. And so where you've got a social network which is able to collect a huge amount of data, you probably want to be able to have at least a reasonable level of control and trust over what happens with that data. And I guess for American government level, they just don't have that sort of comfort around a social network operating out of China. And of course, there have been past issues where certain things have been proven that were inappropriate in terms of how TikTok has operated, how they've kept or not kept data as secure and safe as it should be. I guess you could sort of liken it to who would you allow into your home, and you're picky. You don't just have anybody into your home, and having a social network that all of your population can use, and a large portion of them do, with a government sort of sitting behind the scenes who maybe there's some disagreement with in terms of their principles. That's sort of where these challenges arise.
Is there any actual proof that TikTok is linked to the Chinese government, that the government is interfering? Anything exact, or is it just a pretty safe assumption?
Look, I think that there's a high level of assumption here. There's also the legislation in China that gives government access to really any data that they like, and that isn't something that we would expect if they did have access to, that they would be talking about publicly. So there is some differences, I guess, between a democratic regime where you tend to have a higher level of transparency, but it's certainly not guaranteed in all cases. We've certainly seen issues there, but you tend to have a bit more transparency than you would with the current Chinese regime.
TikTok has denied it has or ever would share U.S. user data. Also, TikTok and ByteDance have called the law unconstitutional and a violation of Americans' free speech rights.
TikTok CEO Shou Chew thanked Trump for helping the platform's continuity.
On behalf of everyone at TikTok and all our users across the country, I want to thank President Trump for his commitment to work with us to find a solution that keeps TikTok available in the United States.
ByteDance, now they own or run TikTok. What's their response been?
Well, of course, as any commercial entity, they're looking to maximise the return for their shareholders. So they don't want TikTok to go anywhere. They don't want to have to sell or divest of it under any sort of pressure. And they largely admit to very little. That said, they have been caught out in the past. There was a scenario where they were spying on some journalists, and that information got out. So there have been some things at their end that are not quite spot on. And in further years gone by, we know that their app was collecting information off the clipboard. So when you maybe copy some information, it could be a password, something private, that the TikTok app was taking that data and sending it back to their systems, which it shouldn't have been doing.
Well, that's a worry. Should New Zealand ban TikTok, like hearing that kind of information? Should we have TikTok here?
Look, it's not a platform I'm particularly fond of because of these sorts of issues. I think that we've probably made the right moves in terms of the parliamentary ban, but it is a pretty big move, and it'd be very unusual. We haven't tended to ban apps like this in the past. And I guess the US is seeing, similar things. This is a really big deal. But it is important to remember that if you look to China, China has largely banned, this type of app and a whole range of others.
Every year, the human rights NGO Freedom House publishes a report on internet freedom around the world. 65 countries are assessed. The People's Republic of China ranks an impressive last place. This is because of what is called the Great Firewall, one of the world's largest and most comprehensive lists of restricted websites, apps, images, and phrases. Everything included cannot be viewed by internet users in China. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google, YouTube, Snapchat, Tumblr, Twitch, and Pinterest.
Predominantly US or international apps that are just not available and haven't been available in China for a very long time. And that includes the likes of, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and so on, right? So there's a pretty stark difference between, how we tend to operate in Western democracies and how China operates. And coming in with a sledgehammer to ban these things is unusual, but I'd probably be leaning in the direction of maybe this is one of those sort of cases where there would be a benefit in a ban.
While the U.S. government sees TikTok as a national security threat, from recipes to fitness routines to makeup tips to simple comedic relief for the 170 million Americans who use the app, they see TikTok as a very useful tool and the potential ban as a threat to free speech.
It means a loss of revenue, for sure. It means a loss of 160,000 people that follow me for recommendations and just entertainment.
I've been really stressed out lately, as it is my income and it's how I feed my family. It's how I put a roof over our heads.
What then, Paul, will happen to, say, content creators and influencers who have built their careers on TikTok? It's a very modern career, what a lot of people are doing. I've seen a lot of tears over the last week or so, but what happens to them?
Well, this is the big challenge, isn't it? Because if you put in place a ban like this, then you can impact livelihoods. Now, of course, there are other platforms and so on that people can go to. And if we look to India, there was a degree of that where, folks who had been maybe making their living on TikTok when it was banned in 2020, they've moved to other platforms. But each platform is different and it's got its own uniquenesses. And of course, if you've built up 100,000, 1 million, a large number of followers on TikTok, and you don't have those on another platform, then that's a pretty expensive situation to be dealing with, and you may not ever be able to get back into a similar position in terms of earning potential.
American users are flocking to a different Chinese social media platform, making it the most downloaded app in the U.S. It's called RedNote.
Hello, TikTok refugees from the U.S. Welcome to RedNote.
This was launched in 2013. It is also a Chinese-owned app. So when you actually go to download it in the App Store, the name is still in Mandarin, and when you try to click on the terms and conditions, all of the language there, it's still written in Mandarin. So what we're seeing here is, yes, users are trying to find an alternative, but they're also doing this as a little bit of an act of defiance, saying, look, we know that TikTok is owned by a Chinese parent company, and we don't care. In fact, we're going to flock to an alternative that is also owned by a Chinese company.
But before you book in for Mandarin lessons and download RedNote, TikTok may be saved by Mr. Beast, real name Jimmy Donaldson, the third most popular creator on the platform.
I just got out of a meeting with a bunch of billionaires. TikTok, we mean business. This is my lawyer right here. We have an offer ready for you. We want to buy the platform. America deserves TikTok. Give me a seat at the table. Let me save this platform, TikTok.
Mr. Beast, the world's most popular YouTuber, is serious. And the clock is ticking for TikTok, which needs to find a non-Chinese owner in 65 days now, or risk that permanent ban in the US.
TikTok, I'm on a private jet right now, about to put in my official offer for this platform. I might become your guys' new CEO. I'm super excited. While we wait, I'm going to be giving 5 random people that follow me $10,000. I wish I could say more about the offer I'm putting in, but I can't for now. Just know it's going to be crazy.
Crazy good for creators who are desperately holding on to that glimmer of hope. But it won't spell an end to fears about privacy. Whoever owns it, TikTok will still have access to your personal information.
They're wanting access to your microphone and your camera in a lot of cases. Now, with TikTok, because of the nature of the content, you're not able to do too much in terms of contributing content if you don't give this level of access. They're able to collate information around localities and obviously people's names and so on. So there's a chunk of important data, and I guess it's when you string that together into social networks and you see who's connected to who, that information would be pretty helpful to a government that was really trying to get a handle on how individuals may be connected. And there are all sorts of probably benefits of having access to that type of data if it were to be used in an untoward manner.
So I signed up for TikTok a few years ago when it was kind of trendy. I've never used it. But how do sort of users ensure their personal data remains secure if they are on TikTok or have signed up for TikTok and have already given that information out?
Look, my impression from I guess chatting to people is once they go onto a platform, a TikTok, a Temu, an Amazon, Facebook, Instagram, any of these sorts of platforms, it doesn't really get a lot of priority. There are a few settings and adjustments to do with how your data is dealt with, but once the platform has your data, there isn't really much going back on it unless you leave the platform and just don't give them any new and fresh data. There are a few options, but really, once your data is gone, in some ways it's gone, and it doesn't tend to be the top thing that folks think about, when they're thinking about these platforms. It's more, hey, I want to get this content, or I want to put my content up, and that tends to be the primary focus.
Have you ever done TikTok?
I've experimented with it because that's part of what I do, but I've generally had it blocked on my home network, so it's not easily accessible. And I don't think we have it on any of our devices in the home. So it's not something that I'm particularly keen on personally, that's for sure.
But thousands of Kiwis use it, and happily. Some make a decent living, some just want to entertain.
Do another donuts over there, son. Oh, calm down. Calm down. Now you're going to end up bloody hanging the post.
And how is your new job in New Zealand? Okay, but the boss is mad. Mad? Why? Every day he asks me, how am I going to die?
Good morning. How are you going to die?
Only in New Zealand will you see someone in a tractor at Liquorland. Good old New Zealand. Just stop for a beer or a box, mate.
Classic Kiwiana, and we love to show that off to the world. But if the ban goes ahead in the US, how can Americans still showcase their lifestyles and local quirks?
And let's start with what this means for everyday users like you at home. While nothing is certain yet, should the law that bans TikTok take effect, if you have the app on your phone, it's not going to magically disappear overnight, nor are you legally required to delete it. But the app stores won't have updates, which over time will affect how the app operates, and no new users will be able to download it either. It's likely people may attempt workarounds like a virtual private network or VPN, where users can appear to be in a different geographic location, or for Android users, side loading. That's getting the app from somewhere outside of Google's Play Store, but there's risks to that, and it's rather technical.
What are the best and safest social media platforms right now?
Do
they exist? Does one exist?
Safe and social media. I mean, I'm not sure whether those words actually go together, because anybody can create something any time. There are some mechanisms in place that sort of help lower risk, and YouTube has been sort of bundled in that category. I know in some cases as a social network. So YouTube Kids could fall into that category, where it's a small subsegment of the content on YouTube that has been somewhat curated to try and make it safe. But even in that case, we heard of situations, if I recall correctly, where pornography and other inappropriate content ended up within that YouTube Kids, in theory, walled off and safeguarded. So there are always exceptions to the rule when we find, safer platforms, and there are some sort of smaller platforms too. But in terms of the bigger, widespread platforms where people can just post freely, I think we're still in for risks, probably for maybe forever, or certainly for the next few years ahead.
So what's your advice to people getting onto a social media platform, or already on, or thinking about signing up, to best protect themselves? What's your best advice there?
Look, I think it's important to look at what the safety and privacy options are. If this is within a family for youngsters, then it's important to look at, at what age do members of your family sort of, come onto these platforms, and you've got to work out what's appropriate in your own household and environment. There are settings that can be adjusted from a privacy perspective in terms of who can contact you and message you, and range of other things. You can make decisions whether to be putting photos and visual content up there, whether to participate in audio or video type sharing. So those sorts of things need to be really well considered. And I think it's worth individuals going and doing a bit of reading on that front. If they're looking at a particular platform, what are the settings that could and should be adjusted, and is this platform actually going to be reasonably safe and appropriate? Because of course there are good sides to social networks, and that's why we use them, but we need to go in with our eyes wide open and understanding the risks.
Safe to say, though, we will still see a lot of Trump on social media this year?
I would imagine so.
So I like TikTok. I like it.
That's all for today. The Detail is a newsroom production supported by RNZ and New Zealand On Air. Thank you to Paul Spain. This episode was produced by Alexia Russell and Davina Zimmer and engineered by William Saunders. I'm Amanda Gillies. Matua.